The best way to learn English. Ilara always felt a heavy knot in her stomach whenever English conversation arose. The mere thought of speaking made her palms sweat, her mind go blank. Despite countless grammar books and endless vocabulary lists, true communication felt like an insurmountable mountain. This daily struggle was her secret burden, a silent battle fought within her own mind every single day, hindering her confidence significantly. She watched others effortlessly chat, their words flowing like a gentle river. How other people talk in English seemed so natural, so easy, almost magical. Ilara envied their freedom, their ability to connect without hesitation or fear of judgment. Her own attempts felt clumsy, disjointed, leading only to more frustration and a deeper sense of inadequacy. One evening, scrolling through endless self-help videos, a curious phrase caught her eye. The best way to learn English. Skeptical yet desperate, she clicked. The video wasn't about grammar rules or rote memorization, but something far more intuitive. It spoke of immersion, not just in theory, but in daily life, transforming passive learning into active engagement. The core message was surprisingly simple. Listen English. Not just words but intonation, rhythm, emotion. The speaker emphasized absorbing the language like a sponge, without the pressure to produce immediately. This was a revelation. Ilara realized she had been focusing too much on speaking, neglecting the foundational skill of deep, meaningful listening. She started small, incorporating English audio into every spare moment. Podcasts during her commute, documentaries while cooking, even interviews as she walked. The initial days were overwhelming, a cacophony of unfamiliar sounds. Yet she persisted, believing in the power of consistent exposure, letting the language wash over her, little by little. Gradually, patterns emerged. Certain phrases started to stick. Intonations became less alien. Ilara began to actively listen, trying to identify emotions, accents, and nuances in conversations. She wasn't just hearing. She was truly listening, deciphering the subtle messages embedded within spoken words, a crucial step in her transformative journey. This consistent input slowly began to reshape her internal language database. Words she had only read now had a voice and identity. The connection between what she heard and how it might be spoken started to form. It was a subtle, almost subconscious process, yet profoundly impactful, building a bridge from passive understanding to active articulation. The video also stressed how to practice English without immediate pressure. It suggested shadow speaking, repeating phrases, or even talking to oneself in front of a mirror. This felt less intimidating than actual conversations. Ilara saw it as a safe space to experiment, to make mistakes without fear of judgment from others. Her bedroom became her practice ground. She would listen to short dialogues and then try to mimic the intonation and speed. Sometimes she felt silly talking to empty air. But with each repetition, her tongue felt a little less clumsy, her pronunciation a little clearer. These quiet, solitary moments were building blocks. She even started recording herself, listening back to identify areas for improvement. It was humbling to hear her own hesitations and mispronunciations, yet incredibly motivating. This self-assessment allowed for targeted practice, focusing on specific sounds or sentence structures that proved particularly challenging for her. Through this diligent solo practice, Ilara began to internalize sentence structures and common conversational fillers. The phrases that once seemed alien now felt more natural on her tongue. It wasn't about perfect grammar anymore, but about developing a fluid, comfortable rhythm in her speech, laying crucial groundwork. Despite progress in listening and solo practice, the daunting question remained: how to talk in English? The thought of engaging with a real person still triggered her anxiety. The gap between practicing alone and actual conversation felt vast, an ocean she wasn't sure she could swim across without sinking. The video offered a bold, yet simple piece of advice: how to take first step for talking. It wasn't about profound philosophical discussions, but simple greetings, asking for directions or ordering coffee. Start with low-stakes interactions, build tiny victories, and gradually expand your comfort zone. Alara decided her first step would be at her local coffee shop. Her heart pounded as she approached the counter. She had rehearsed "Can I please have a latte?" 100 times in her head. Her voice trembled slightly as she uttered the words, but they came out. The barista simply nodded. It was a tiny interaction, perhaps just 5 words, but for Alara, it was a monumental achievement. A wave of relief washed over her, followed by a surge of quiet pride. She had done it. She had spoken English to a stranger, and the world had not ended. This small victory ignited a spark. Encouraged, she began seeking out similar small opportunities, asking for help in a store, thanking a bus driver, making brief eye contact and a polite comment. Each micro-conversation chipped away at her ingrained fear, replacing it with a growing sense of capability and confidence, step by painful step. Next, she found a local language exchange group online. The idea of structured conversation felt less threatening than random encounters. It was a safe environment where everyone was learning, everyone was making mistakes, fostering a supportive and understanding community. This community was invaluable. Her first meeting was still nerve-wracking. She mostly listened, offering only hesitant one-word answers. Her mind raced, trying to formulate perfect sentences but often failing to keep up. The pressure was immense, yet the friendly faces around her offered silent encouragement, making it bearable. However, the group leaders emphasized, how to talk to anyone in English means embracing imperfection. They encouraged fluency over flawless grammar, connection over correction. This liberating perspective allowed Alara to relax, to let go of the pressure to be perfect and simply try. She started by asking simple, open-ended questions. What did you do today? Or, what do you like about this city? These questions shifted the focus away from herself, allowing her to listen more and respond more naturally. It became less about performance and more about genuine curiosity. Observing how other people talk in English became a fascinating study. She noticed how native speakers use filler words, varied their pace, and employed gestures. It wasn't just about vocabulary. It was about the entire communication package, the nuances of natural conversation flow. She started trying to incorporate some of these observed patterns into her own speech. Using or like felt strange at first, but it made her sound more human, less robotic. This emulation was not about imitation, but about finding her own authentic voice within the English language. One day, a new member shared a very interesting story about their travels. Alara found herself engrossed, forgetting her usual anxieties. When the speaker paused, she spontaneously asked a follow-up question, completely unbidden by fear. It was a breakthrough moment of authentic engagement. Her ability to comprehend spoken English in real time had vastly improved. She could follow complex narratives, understand jokes, and even pick up on subtle sarcasm. This deep comprehension was the direct result of countless hours spent on passive and active listening exercises daily. With each successful interaction, her confidence blossomed. The knot in her stomach began to loosen, replaced by an eagerness to communicate. She no longer viewed conversations as tests, but as opportunities to learn, to share, and to connect with fascinating individuals from diverse backgrounds. Mistakes still happened, of course. She mispronounced words, fumbled grammar, and occasionally misunderstood a phrase. But now, instead of spiraling into self-doubt, she saw them as learning opportunities, quickly correcting herself or asking for clarification without embarrassment or shame. The true joy was in the connection. She found herself discussing hobbies with a retired professor, sharing travel tips with a student, and even debating current events with a lively group. The language barrier was dissolving, revealing a world rich with human connection and shared experiences. Her conversations were no longer limited to basic exchanges. She could articulate complex ideas, express nuanced emotions, and even participate in humorous banter. The initial goal of How to Talk with Anyone was not just being met, but beautifully surpassed beyond her wildest dreams. English became seamlessly integrated into her daily life. She thought in English, dreamed in English, and even talked to herself in English without conscious effort. The struggle had been replaced by a natural, almost instinctive flow of language, feeling completely authentic and effortless. Alara realized the best way to learn English wasn't a single method, but a personalized journey of consistent effort, brave first steps, and persistent immersion. It was about creating a supportive environment and never giving up, even when progress seemed slow or invisible to her eyes. Looking back at my daily day's struggle, she barely recognized the terrified person she once was. The fear of speaking, the constant self-doubt, the feeling of inadequacy, all seemed like distant memories, replaced by a deep sense of accomplishment and linguistic freedom. She understood now the profound importance of Listen English. It wasn't just about understanding words, but about internalizing the music of the language, its rhythm, its pace. This deep listening provided the intuitive foundation for natural, fluent spoken communication. How to practice English had transformed from a chore into a natural habit. Even now, she consciously seeks opportunities to refine her pronunciation or expand her vocabulary, seeing practice not as a burden, but as an ongoing journey of continuous personal growth. The mystery of how to talk in English had been entirely demystified. It wasn't a magic trick, but a gradual unfolding of courage, persistence, and simply opening her mouth to make sounds. The fear only perpetuated the silence, while action brought the voice. She learned that how to talk to anyone in English involved embracing vulnerability. It meant being okay with not knowing every word, or making a grammatical error. People were generally supportive, eager to help, not to judge her every single mistake. Observing how other people talk in English continued to be a rich source of learning. She noticed subtle cultural nuances, idiomatic expressions, and different communication styles. Every conversation became a mini lesson in linguistic and cultural understanding. That initial terrifying how to take first step for talking at the coffee shop had been the true catalyst. Without that small, brave act, she might still be trapped in her silent struggle. It was the first domino in a chain reaction of growth and transformation. Sharing her very interesting story about her learning journey, she found, was just as rewarding as listening to others. Her own struggles and triumphs resonated with many, inspiring them to embark on their own linguistic adventures with renewed vigor and hope. Alara now confidently navigates diverse settings, from casual social gatherings to professional meetings. Her ability to articulate her thoughts clearly and concisely, regardless of the topic, is a testament to her dedication and the effectiveness of her adopted methods. Beyond just words, she began to grasp the cultural nuances embedded within the language. This deeper understanding allowed her to connect with people on a more profound level, fostering empathy and bridging cultural gaps with genuine ease. She even started quietly mentoring newer members in her language exchange group, sharing her experiences, offering tips, and providing encouragement. She became a beacon of hope for those just beginning their challenging journey, embodying true progress. Her story underscored the undeniable power of consistency. It wasn't about one monumental effort, but countless small, consistent actions taken daily. Each listening session, each practice moment, each hesitant word contributed to her remarkable progress. The biggest shift wasn't just in her English skills, but in her mindset. She moved from a fixed mindset of "I can't" to a growth mindset of "I can learn." This mental transformation was as crucial as any linguistic technique she employed. Alara understood that learning English, or any language, is a lifelong journey. There would always be new words, new expressions, new accents to discover. She embraced this continuous learning, viewing it as an exciting adventure, not a burdensome task. Ultimately, she found her voice. Not just a voice that spoke English, but a confident, authentic voice that expressed her unique personality and ideas. The language became a vehicle for self-expression, no longer a barrier to her true self. Her transformation became an inspiration to her friends and family. They saw her journey from silent struggle to confident communicator, and often asked for her secrets. Alara happily shared her unconventional approach, emphasizing real-world practice. The freedom of being able to communicate with anyone, anywhere was exhilarating. Global travel became more enriching, international friendships flourished, and new professional opportunities emerged, all thanks to her newfound linguistic prowess. The phrase "my daily day's struggle" now felt entirely alien to her experience. English was no longer a struggle. It was a joy, a tool for exploration and connection. Her past difficulties served only as a reminder of how far she had come. It was a testament to the fact that fluency isn't achieved overnight, but through dedication, courage, and consistent engagement with the language in all its forms. The journey was challenging, yet profoundly rewarding, yielding incredible results. She learned that listening, practicing, and talking were not separate skills but deeply interconnected, each reinforcing the other. A holistic approach, integrating all facets of language acquisition, proved to be the most effective strategy for her. Maintaining a positive attitude, even during frustrating moments, was paramount. Believing in her own ability to learn, and celebrating every small success, propelled her forward through periods of doubt and perceived stagnation in her progress. Alara's best way to learn English became her personalized blend of immersion, self-practice, and brave social interactions. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all solution, but a journey tailored by her own needs and perseverance, evolving constantly. She had transitioned from theoretically understanding grammar rules to intuitively applying them in real-life conversations. This practical application was the key, transforming abstract knowledge into fluid, natural, and confident communication, a true breakthrough. The ultimate lesson was clear. Stop waiting for perfection. Start speaking now, even imperfectly. It's in the messy, imperfect attempts that true learning happens, paving the way for eventual fluency and genuine communication. Alara, once burdened by fear, now embraced every opportunity to speak, to listen, to connect. Her story stands as a beacon of hope for anyone struggling, proving that with the right approach and unwavering spirit, mastering English is truly within reach.